Would anybody want to chant the Dhyana Shloka? Hari Om. You can put up your hands. Achla Bhagini, you can go ahead.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadashaധ്യായിനി Amba Tvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishal Buddhe Phullar Vindayat Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharat Tail Purnaha Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gītāmृतदुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनम् देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् भीष्म द्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धार नीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलम् गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम् लोके सज्जन षट्पदैर्हरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद् पंकजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः।
Hari Om Bhagini.
Thank you.
Dhanyavada. Sadashiva-samārambhāṃ Shankarācārya-madhyamāṃ Asmadācārya-paryantāṃ Vande Guru Paramparaṃ. Om. Param varishtham brahmishtham paramanandarupinam paramarthanandayatim sadgurum pranatosmyaham. So, having completed the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, we will now enter into the 15th chapter. And while we study the Bhagavad-gita chapter by chapter, the total vision of the Gita must never be forgotten. Only when the total vision is kept in mind, the role of every individual chapter will be clear, and exactly where each of the pieces fit into the huge, jigsaw kind of picture that will start emerging. So what happens is, only when we do repeated or at least 2 to 3 cycles of studying the entire Gita, we are able to get a clear vision of how some subjects are dealt with horizontally, repeatedly in each chapter. Some are focused upon in just one chapter. All of those will become clear. So in the first attempt, if you're attending this for the first time, you can just enjoy chapter by chapter, but still it is very important for us to keep the bigger picture in mind and the entire vision of the Gita in mind. Anyway, I'm going to attempt doing that in a very quick and brief manner now, to the extent that is required for the study of the 15th chapter. So we should remember that Bhagavad Gita comes as a moksha shastra. That means what? It is meant to solve the human problem called samsāra. Samsara is the name of all human problems put together, right? It is caused by self-ignorance. It is all psychological problems, intellectual problems, anything that is caused by self-ignorance is called samsara. Sometimes what happens is, as Swamiji says in Ashtavakra Gita, which is a fairly advanced text, I was going through Swamiji's lectures recently. What he says is, when you reflect, you relate to this, you wonder why all the time we are speaking about samsara and how does it help, and moksha sadhanam, etc. But invariably what happens is, when we have good times, right, we are really so engrossed in enjoying the good times that we don't have time for Vedanta or what that has to offer. Similarly, at the other extreme, what happens is, when we are going through extremely difficult situations also, right? Some calamity has struck in any of the pancha anatmas, body, mind, family, possession, or profession. We don't definitely have any bandwidth to look at even Vedanta. So what happens is, it is a very strange combination that the need for it, when it is required during these extremes, unfortunately that time the need, when you feel the need in difficult situations, right, whether it is a very bad problem which you're not able to get out, at that point in time you are not able to focus on the studies. So when you have a normal kind of routine life, when we get exposed to this teaching, what happens is, with repeated mananam and nididhyasanam, the teaching slowly starts settling in the mind in the form of vasanas. Vasanas are deep thoughts which go into the subconscious. So what happens is, when we are faced with extremely difficult situations, the impact of these situations appears much lesser because of these vasanas that are there in the subconscious mind. Similarly, if you see, the typical problem of a human being when he's going through a very good kind of prarabdha, right, is that he's constantly concerned about how long this wave is going to last, right? So that problem also is solved if you have the teaching behind in the subconscious mind. So basically, when we are saying that this is a moksha sadhana, right, moksha shastra, this is what Krishna is meaning and the Shastras are meaning, which is consistent exposure to this teaching when we are not going through emotional upheavals. It's also very important that sometimes when somebody is going through an extremely difficult time and that person is reacting to the situation, it is absolutely inappropriate for us, if we are spiritual seekers, to go and tell them, no, 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 please come to the class and pull them. No, it doesn't work that way, right? We can try, we can attempt, but then at these kind of situations, it is very, very difficult for a person to turn towards Vedanta, right? So we should remember that Bhagavad Gita is coming as a moksha shastra to solve this human problem called samsara, right? And samsara in simple terms is the emotional upheavals that are happening because of our raga dvesha, which are a result of guna, which we saw in the 14th chapter. Okay, so in general, the samsara problem comes because of self-ignorance, right? Which is the basically not knowing the exact nature of self, which is the Atma, right? Lord Krishna calls this self-knowledge, right? And the self-knowledge alone we call as Atma Vidya, otherwise Brahma Vidya. That is why at the end of every chapter, we get the expression what? Iti Srimad-Bhagavad-gita su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam. So that Brahma, at the end of every chapter, we must remember that the primary message of the Gita, right, is that it is a message which is borrowed from the Upanishad, and that is Atma Vidya, right? So Brahma Vidyayam, that is the central theme. Brahma Vidya is the central theme of the Gita, and the purpose of this Brahma Vidya is removal of self-ignorance, and by removing self-ignorance, all the problems caused by self-ignorance, which is generally termed samsara, is to be eliminated. And while Brahma Vidya happens to be the primary solution for the human problems, so many other disciplines are prescribed as the supportive discipline, exactly like if you are going through an Ayurvedic treatment, say an avarakadi or a pirichal or some other 7-day treatment or a three-week treatment. What happens? The Ayurvedic doctor side by side prescribes what is known as a patyam or diet, because without the patyam, the medicines don't work, right? So Swamiji gives this comparison so well, right? So similarly, another example is you have to prepare the ground, right, before you get ready to sow the seed, like tilling it, turning it, etc., so that the seed can germinate and can grow well, right? So to make the mind conducive, several contributory steps are given, right? And all of them, we must remember, are contributory steps only, and the primary solution to the problem of ignorance is only through Brahma Vidya. So what is the supportive sadhana? Karma yoga is the supportive sadhana. Upasana yoga is the supportive sadhana. Dhyana yoga, right? So all of the sadhanas referred to as sadhanani in Sanskritam are prescribed for this, right? And we should understand the position of the sadhanas, which are basically different from self-knowledge, which are contributory, right? The medicine which removes bhavaroga or samsara, right, is Brahma Vidya. All the contributory disciplines put together is called Yoga Shastra, right? So that is why at the end of every chapter we say Brahma Vidyayam, in the medicine, Yoga Shastre, the Patyam or the diet, right? So Aushadam and Patyam complement each other. So if any one of them is deficient, then the treatment will not work. Therefore, every spiritual seeker should give importance to both the Aushadam and Patyam. So that is Brahma Vidya also, Yoga Shastra also. So if you look at some of the chapters of the Gita, they focus heavily on Brahma Vidya part of the sadhana. Some chapters focus on Yoga Shastra part of the sadhana. So some chapters deal with both of them simultaneously, Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. In fact, if you are interested and you have the time, you can actually go chapter by chapter now that we are in the 15th chapter and see which portions correspond to Brahma Vidya, which portions to Yoga Shastra. In fact, you can even subdivide it further and say Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga and Jnana Yoga, right? So, now, which are the Brahma Vidya Pradhana chapters? That is why I told you all this, right? The Brahma Vidya Pradhana chapters are 13, 14 and 15 chapter. That is why we are finding these chapters extremely subtle and dealing with abstract concepts. But the reason why I also mentioned is only 15 chapter, 20 verses deals with Brahma Vidya. With that, it is the last of Brahma Vidya as far as the Gita is concerned in terms of fully focusing or fully dedicated chapter, right? So 15th chapter, 13, 14 and 15 are Brahma Vidya Pradhanam, hardcore Vedanta. That is why the discussion is extremely subtle. Whereas certain other chapters which appear lighter, right? And people really enjoy those, right? Especially the 3rd chapter, people love the chapter. It's Karma Yoga fully. So Yoga Shastra Pradhana chapter, right? Now similarly, 16th chapter and 17th chapter is also, both of them are going to be Yoga Shastra Pradhana, right? So among Brahma Vidya Pradhana chapters, 15th chapter is the last chapter of the Gita. Gita last chapter is 18. Pradhana, Brahma Vidya Pradhana chapter, the 15th chapter is the last, right? Therefore, it is like the peaking chapter of Brahma Vidya or Brahma Jnanam. And from 16th, again you can relax, right? A little bit. 18th chapter is a winding up chapter in which all ideas will be again consolidated. Extremely enjoyable, just like the 2nd chapter. So every chapter has its own nuances. So 15th chapter is an extremely significant chapter. So like the 13th and 14th chapters, this chapter also is significant chapter, and even though the size is very small. So generally for Parayanam, if you want to do a Parayanam of one chapter, generally people pick, right? They will either choose, say, the 12th because it has 20 verses, or they will choose 15th which also has 20 verses, right? And it is a practice in the ashramas, especially I have seen in Pujya Swamiji, Dayananda Saraswati ji's ashramas, Arshavidya Gurukulam, etc., that before they start their lunch, dinner, etc., they chant the Purushottama Yoga, right? But only the disadvantage is that when we start chanting the Purushottama Yoga, we start thinking of food, because they go together so much in the ashramas. Even here, when we invite Swamiji or Sannyasis for Bhiksha, it is a practice to chant Purushottama Yoga. Now, why Purushottama Yoga? When I come to that stanza, I'll definitely explain. It comes in, I think, verse 12 or 14. We will definitely talk about it, right? But as far as we are concerned now, it is a heavy chapter. It is a serious Vedanta chapter titled Purushottama Yoga. Purushottamaha means Nirgunam Brahma or Nirguna Atma. So the ultimate truth which is presented as Nirgunam Brahma in the Upanishad, in the Taittiriya Upanishad, presented as Satyam Nantam, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, and in Mandukya Upanishad it is presented as Turiyam, right? Nanta Prajnam na Bahish Prajnam. So that is in Mandukya Upanishad, right? So Purushottamaha is what we will be seeing in this chapter. Purushottama Yogaha means Brahma Yogaha, Atma Yogaha, right? So since Arjuna did not ask any question, Krishna voluntarily begins this chapter, right? So there is no Arjuna Uvacha in the beginning, even without Arjuna asking. Krishna himself voluntarily presents because the subject matter is profound. Therefore, he feels that it requires further reinforcement. With this background, we will enter the chapter. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Shri Bhagavanuvacha Urdhvamulamādhashākam Urdhvamulamādhashākam Ashvattham Prahuravyayam Ashvattham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi yasya parnani Chandamsi yasya parnani Yastam veda sa vedavit Yastam veda sa vedavit. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Lord proceeds further, and here in the first 3 shlokas, Lord Krishna gives a comprehensive description of this vast universe. Prapañca varṇanaṃ or Jagat varṇanaṃ, a study of cosmology, description of the cosmos. What is the extent of the cosmos? What perpetuates the universe? What are the causes responsible for the arrival of the universe? What is the very purpose and reason for the creation of the universe? All these topics are comprehensively presented. So, prapañcaha and prapañcasya avatihi, the extent and what perpetuates, what is the cause, what is the purpose of the creation, all these are described, or we can say Vedic cosmology. It is Lord Krishna who presents the cause of the human problems also. So what is responsible for human problem of samsara also he analyzes. The diagnosis of the human problem, and only when the problem is diagnosed, we can work in the right direction, right? Once the diagnosis is done, 50% of the problem is solved, right? So then we know, for instance, if we know that where we have to proceed, we know the direction that we have to take. There is no more groping in darkness, right? So human beings often are groping in the darkness because they do not know where the problem is. So Krishna presents the problem as well as the solution. Therefore, prapañca varṇanaṃ, saṃsāra karanam, and mokṣa sādhanam. All these 3 are covered in the first 3 verses, most important first 3 verses, right? Prapañca varṇanaṃ, saṃsāra karanam, mokṣa sādhanam. And while discussing the samsara karanam, he talks about the primary cause as well as contributory cause, right? And while talking about moksha sadhanam, means of liberation, also he talks of primary sadhanam as well as contributory sadhanam. Thus, it is a complete and comprehensive description, very important. And the first shloka, like many other Gita shlokas, is borrowed from Kathopanishad, right? So Bhagavan Krishna, he is not giving his own independent teaching, right? If you remember the Dhyana Slokah, we say Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogda Gopalanandanaha. So Lord Krishna has only milked the Upanishadic cow, and Bhagavad-gita is milk extracted from the Upanishad, and the calf is Arjuna, right? So one of the very important homework, right, for the Upanishad student, right, if anybody is interested, is to trace which shloka goes back to which source Upanishad. We can try that, right? We also had Najayate Mriyate Va Kadachit. That also comes from Kathopanishad, right? And this shlokam also, Urdhva Mula Madashakam, also comes from Kathopanishad mantra with a slight change. There the verse goes, Urdhva Mulo Vakshaka Eshoshvataha Sanatanaha. So there is a slight difference here in the verse. So here it is Urdhva Moolam Adashakam with minor variations Krishna is quoting. And here the vast universe is compared to a huge Ashwattha tree. Okay, the vast, huge universe whose limits cannot be measured even by scientists, right? We don't even know how far the space extends, right? And space is also an integral part of the universe, and we are not able to find the limits of space. And the scientists say that the universe is expanding, and they say that the furthest galaxy is about 13.8 billion light years, right? So light year is the distance traveled by light in 1 year, and we say that light travels around 3 lakh kilometers per second. Now we are talking about 13.8 billion light years, right? So that is the extent that we are talking, and we are talking about an expanding universe, right? So this is the entire cosmos. Now this cosmos is compared to an Ashwattha tree. Ashwattha tree means it is a peepal tree or a fig tree, not a banyan tree. Okay, so it is not banyan, right? And peepal and fig are also both very huge tree, peepal or fig tree. So why is it compared to an Ashwattha tree? Two reasons. The very word Ashwattha means that which is impermanent. Swaha na tishtati iti ashwattaha. No doubt it will last for several years. Still it will die. It is impermanent. But even though it is impermanent as a tree, when it dies, it produces several seeds, perpetuating itself in the form of a seed. It never gets destroyed totally. Before destruction, it produces the seed, Ashwattha Bijam, survived by Bijam, right? Then it produces another Ashwattha tree, and then the next Ashwattha Vriksha comes, etc. The Bijam, Vriksham, alternately, it will keep going in a cyclical manner. So a seed is preceded by a tree, and a tree is followed by a seed, which is followed by a tree. This seed tree series is inexhaustible. Therefore, it is Ashwattaha. At the same time, Avyayaha means permanent. It is impermanent, but it is permanent in the form of a series, right? So, every seed is preceded and followed by a tree, right? Therefore, you can never speak about an end or a beginning, right? Exactly like this tree, the universe also is a current universe. It is impermanent. As a current universe, it is impermanent. The current universe does not has a beginning and an end, which starts with a big bang and it will end with the pralayam, as we call it, right? Modern science does not know before that or after that, but Veda is very sure, right? It says there is a condition which is pre-Big Bang called Pralayaha, into which everything will resolve, and the resolved condition is called the seed condition, and the Srishti is the tree condition. So Pralayam is Bijam and Srishti is Vriksha, and this cycle continues. There is a series, right? So never ask this question, how did the universe begin? It is an anadi tattvam, right? So we actually saw in the second chapter and in the 8th chapter, what were the shlokas? Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyakta nidananyeva tatraka paridevana. We spoke about it. There is no middle, there is no end, there is no beginning. We also saw avyaktat vyaktaya sarva prabhavantya aharagame Ratyagame praliyante tatreva yukta sanyake. In 8th chapter also we saw 18th verse, right? The creation is beginningless, endless series. So the current creation which produces the seeds which will be there during pralaya avastha also in the form of karana prapañca, right? So what are the seeds generated by, right? By the current universe, Krishna will explain later, right? So the universe is a series, right? And it just goes on, Ashwattha Vrikshaha, right? That's why it is compared to Ashwattha Vrikshaha. So now let's look at the meaning. Prahu, they speak of, basically Prahu means the scriptures declare Avyayam Ashwattam Prahu, that is the universe is like a Ashwattha tree, right? An Ashwattam eva, like an Ashwattha tree, right? This is the first description. And when you take any tree and Ashwattha tree, the tree has got two portions. One portion is above the ground, which is visible, and there is another portion which is below the ground, which is not visible, right? So we have to understand the Tatparyam here. So the visible part in Sanskritam is referred to as the Indriya gochara amshaha, that which is visible or discernible by the sense organs, right? Subject to sensory perception, right? And the same tree has another part, which is the roots below the ground, which is invisible, right? Indriya agochara amshaha, paroksha. Therefore, the Upanishad says, Urdhva Moolam. Urdhvam literally means above, and here the word above means above the range of sense organs, right? We should not take it as spatially above, right? So above the range of sense organs or above our direct comprehension. So Urdhva Moolam means Indriya Agochara Moolam, which is the root, which is not available for sense perceptions. Please note here, Urdhva Moolam means Indriya Agochara Moolam, that is, which is not perceptible by the sense organs, which is the root, right, which is not available for perceptions. So this is the description of the Asvatta tree. This we have to extend to the universe also. So the word Urdhvam we should not take as above literally, right? We should take it as beyond sense organs, right? So the commentators and Shankaracharya all clarify this, right? So above means incomprehensible. Similarly, the root of the tree is not comprehensible because under the ground. And then adashakam. Adaha means falling within the range of the sense organs. Visible, comprehensible, perceptible, studyable. Shaka means what? The branches, right? They all have leaves, etc., right? And all of them are Indriya Gochara. So there is an Indriya Gochara portion and an Indriya Agochara Amshadvayam, one which is within the perception of the sense organs and which is one which is beyond the perception of sense organs. So the entire universe which can be studied by us, perceived by us, and studied by modern sciences and with all the instruments, right? There is one part. And there is another one which is the nourishing principle or the adhishtanam, right? The root of the universe is called Bhagavan or Ishvara. Maya Sahitam Brahma, right? That Ishvara is not available for modern science because modern science can only perceive things that are perceivable to the sense organs. And they don't believe that there is a pramanam called Veda existing and it can be only understood by this pramanam, right? So you have to dig the ground to find the root. Similarly, we require a digging instrument to arrive at Bhagavan, that is called Veda Pramanam or Shastra Pramanam. Atindriya Vastu, beyond the Indriyam. Therefore, Urdhva Moolam has two meanings. When you take the tree, it means it has got a root which is invisible. And when you take the universe, Urdhva Moolam means Ishvaraha. So Urdhvam means Ishvaraha, Moolam means the root of this universe. Bhagavan is the root of this universe, and that's why in Bhagavatam the imagery is used to convey an important message, right? So when you want to nourish the tree, feed the tree, you want to give what? We have to give fertilizers and of course water also. You'd supply the root, at the root, not on the leaf, right? So when you give it to the root, you are very sure that it will reach all parts of the tree. Extremely important imagery here, right? Through osmosis, right? When you pour water into the roots, it will reach every leaf, every branch of the tree, right? Even those tall trees that you see in California, which is 300 meters or so high, from the root, the water goes up, right? Similarly, very, very important point in Vedic rituals, when you are offering oblations, abhishekam, right? Many people ask, why are you pouring ghee into this, into the homa kunda, etc., right? So why can't you offer it to the poor people, right? This is a complaint, especially of modern youngsters who don't understand the significance. We have also not educated them, right? At the age when we could have made an influence on them. So we must do that. So they ask this question, why are you wasting the ghee, right? So Bhagavatam's answer is nothing will go waste at all, right? They will all contribute to the well-being of the world, whether it is Rudra Ekadashi, Atirudram, Maharudram, whatever it is, right? whatever ghee is given into the Agni will contribute to the environment, right? And to Ishvara. Exactly like the water. We don't see it traveling, but the water from the ocean gets back into the rain-bearing clouds also, right? So this is somewhat similar to that. It is beyond our perception, right? So Ishvara happens to be the root of the prapañca vruksha, right? And urdhva moolam we say is Ishvaraha, and the root is invisible, but the tree in the form of the universe with all the branches is visible. Therefore, adashakam means with visible, right? What you call objects of the universe. You see the branches of the trees with the leaves, etc. And as a series, this Urdhva Moolam and Adashakam, right, is Avyayam. It is permanent as a series. It is impermanent as a single member of the current universe, right? And what are the nourishing factors? What helps in nourishment of the prapañca? What protects the universe? Krishna says, Chandamsi yasya parnani. Leaves are extremely important for the protection of the tree because leaves alone produce food also. Right? They are involved in the photosynthesis. If you remove the leaves, the tree cannot survive. Therefore, parnani or the protection of the tree, the prapañca vruksha, the universal tree, right, protects through parnani, which is chandansi chandaha, means vedaha. Here especially it refers to very important the Veda Purva Bhaga here, the karma and the upasana kanda. Right? Because these portions of the Veda talk about various things that we can accomplish in our life, and it attracts us, right? Money, fame, position, beautiful bodies, healthy sense organs, even for wonderful skin, long hair, we have lot of karmas, right? So Veda talks about karmas and upasanas, dharma, artha, kama, purushartha, right? Nice husband, nice wife, nice family, not only in the current janma but also in future janmas, getting a good body, good environment, etc. So here Chandansi refers to all the Veda Purva Bhaga, all the Papa Punya Karmani, which produce, right, Papa Punyam for the next janma as well. Just as Ashwattha tree produces the seeds when it is alive, we also like Ashwattha tree 24/7 run and produce for our next janma papa and punyam, and they become the seed for the next srishti. Therefore, Veda, by providing a lot of karmani and upasana, becomes responsible for the human beings to collect a lot of punya papa phalam. More descriptions will come in the next two shlokas, and here Krishna gives us another aside note. Clearly understanding this universe along with its root will give liberation. Yaha tam veda, the one who knows both the upper part of the universe and also the lower part by now, right, of the universe, the root as well as the branches and the tree, right, who understands clearly with the help of Veda Pramanam, right, because only Veda Pramanam can help us understand this, not material sciences, right? So if you see modern physics and only looks at the universe, study of the universe, right? So quantum physics analyzes a very small micro part, cosmology analyzes the macro part, right? But if you want to know this root, we have to necessarily come to Veda, especially the Upanishadic part of the Veda. Thus, with the help of the Veda, the one who knows the Karya Prapañca and the Karana Ishvara, right? One who clearly grasps the differences between the two. Saha Vedavit, he is the Vedajnaha, he is the Jnani, he will get liberated from this series called Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam cycle. The limitations caused by mortality. Mortality means old age, disease, jara, mrityu, etc. It all are included. In short, the sense of insecurity, mortality, right, etc. Mortality itself means causing insecurity, right? So this is what is the meaning of this very, very important first shloka has very deep meaning. So the Lord said, they speak of the eternal fig tree, the Asvatta tree of samsara, whose taproot is above and whose branches are below and whose leaves are the Vedas. He who knows it is the knower of Vedas. Note this, taproot is above means beyond the perception of sense organs here. Note down if you want, because later when you see it, you will wonder how this meaning came about. Okay. Somebody has complained about the audio. I hope it's okay now. Otherwise, please let me know. अधश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसृतास्तस्य शाखाः अधश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसृतास्तस्य शाखाः गुणप्रवृद्धा विषयप्रवालाः गुणप्रवृद्धा विषयप्रवालाः अधश्च मूल्यान्यनुसन्ततानि अधश्च मूलान्यनुसन्ततानि कर्मानुबन्धीनि मनुष्यलोके कर्मानुबन्धीनि मनुष्यलोके. Please note the change in meter here. Now, in the visible universe itself, when you take the prapañca part, leaving aside the Ishvara root, right? So, what is the extent of this universe, right? So modern science talks about only the visible universe. That also what they declare is mind-boggling. They say whatever galaxies and planets and all that we see, whatever we can study is only 4%. The rest of the 96% is dark matter and dark energy. 73% is dark energy and 23% is dark matter. This is what modern science says, okay? So dark means dark. So 4% itself that we are aware of is billions of galaxies, including Milky Way, solar system, etc. This one itself we are able to study only 4%. So according to Veda, all this comes under Bhuloka only. And this Bhuloka, of which 96% is dark matter and energy, in 4% we are struggling, and all of them put together is only Bhuloka. Like that, there are 14 lokas. Bhuloka is roughly in the middle. We have 6 higher lokas, right? Higher not in terms of space, because the other lokas have different time and space concepts, right? They are not accessible to us. That's what they write. Basically, even in science fictions and science books, science research, we see they talk about parallel universes, right? We can also see the Grand Design, the book by Stephen Hawking, etc. Of course, beyond a few pages, too much of equations and goes above our head, but they talk about parallel universes, right? So they are higher loka, right? In terms of our time and space, they are different, right? And you can never spot them within our time and space, right? It is exactly like an object in the dream world, right? You cannot spot it in terms of time and space. So a dream object can be located in dream time and space, right? You cannot locate it in waker's time and space. Sometimes whole, a child is born, grows, completes the life and goes all in less than a few seconds in our dream, right? So similarly, when we talk about higher loka, the word higher definitely refers to qualitative superiority. Qualitative superiority means the type of body which will be far superior, like the celestial body, Indra Shariram, Varuna Shariram, which will not be even visible to us, right? They of course say that in Deva Sharira, the body appears in the full grown form and disappears in that form itself. There is no decay, Jara, Mrityu, etc. in Devaloka. They say that in the Puranas they talk about it, right? So, like the celestial body, Indra Shariram, Varuna Shariram, etc., right? In the 6 slokas, you find all these. In fact, during Sankalpas, we talk about Bhuvar, Suvar, Mahar, Jana, Tapo, Lokaha. The highest is Satya Lokaha, where the body is an extremely fine body and the sense pleasures also are extremely fine and superior, right? Here itself in Bhuloka, human body is able to discern beautiful music, etc. Right? So for you to imagine, you can imagine much better sense organs, much better developed sense organs, which is able to appreciate even better and subtler sense pleasures, right? So in the body, and you can just to imagine and compare, you can compare with the animal body, say a buffalo or something else which cannot discern music, right? And they can only exhaust their prarabdha. They don't have a free will, so they cannot earn any fresh karma. Whereas, so if you just extend this imagination, this is how I started understanding some of these concepts. If you extend this imagination, just like you have say a lower kind of janma which is exhausting its papa karma, or because Manushya janma is supposed to be a balance, right, of papa and punya karma. Then you can extend it to the Devaloka or any of these lokas, saying they will have a much bigger account of punya which they are exhausting. And so Swamiji always says, when you exhaust that and come back into this 50% range, you will come back and be born amongst the Kuvam river. He always uses that term. Basically, you will be back in Manushya Loka, is what he was trying to say, right? So the important thing is, we have different lokas. Therefore, the sense pleasures are also different there. And Veda talks about these higher lokas. And at the same time, Veda also talks about lower lokas. Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Talatala, Patala. They are higher and lower lokas. They are exactly like the branches of the huge Ashwattha tree, or any tree that has branches in the upper reaches and the lower reaches. Similarly, the cosmos, the universe, has got both higher and lower loka. Right? So, adascha urdvamsha prasutas. In the upper reaches and the lower reaches, tasya shaka, the branches of the prapañca vruksha, in the form of different lokas, are prakritaha, spread, and they are also nourished, right? And how are they nourished? They are nourished by not only Ishvara, they are also nourished by so many other factors which contribute to the perpetuation of this universe. What are those additional factors? Guna pravriddha vishaya pravalaha. Guna pravriddha vishaya pravalaha means what? This universe grows and is perpetuated by the three gunas, which are in every living being, because every living being has got a body mind sense complex which is filled with the gunas in different proportions, right? In the 14th chapter we saw that, right? Sattva guna pradana, rajo guna pradana, tamo guna pradana, and depending upon the dominance of the three gunas, there is a personality, and depending on the personality, each one has got a raga and dvesha, likes and dislikes, and driven by these three gunas, every living being does varieties of karma. So guna is responsible for karma. Karma means good and bad activities. Karma is responsible for punyam and papam. And punyam and papam is perpetuating the samsara. And this samsara is not responsible just for the current janma, but it is responsible for the future janmas also. So the creation is maintained by the three gunas, and collectively we perpetuate the creation by being responsible for our next Srishti also. If we don't generate karma, right, it is okay. By our generation of karma individually, if basically each one, if we are not generating karma, it is okay. It is the collective generation of karma, right, which is responsible for the next Srishti collectively. Individually, we are responsible for our own birth, right? So thus individually and collectively we keep the samsara going. Therefore, gunaihi pravriddha. Not only the gunas are responsible for the perpetuation of the branches of the trees, but they are also responsible for creation of higher branches, the Suvarloka, Bhuvarloka, Satyaloka, etc. Because of the papa karma of the jiva, they become responsible for the creation of the Adolokaha. right? Otherwise, why should Bhagavan create upper and lower loka if we don't generate punya papam? For the exhaustion of our karmas only, Bhagavan creates the world. So Bhagavan does not have the need for a universe, and he doesn't have to make it different and different lokas, etc. It is only for exhaustion of our punyam and papam. He has to give the blueprint for the next Srishti based on that. So as Swamiji puts it, Bhagavan is the cosmic contractor. He's got the raw material in the form of Maya. He's got the skill and knowledge, right, as Bhagavan. But he's waiting for the order. Bhagavan never gets unemployed because we continuously give orders. Buffalo body, crow body, right, worm body, Indra Shariram, right, Manushya Shariram, etc. Therefore, Bhagavan is the busiest contractor in the world, and therefore the important message that Lord Krishna gives is Bhagavan alone is not responsible for this creation. If we don't give order to the Bhagavan through our karmani, Bhagavan will be basically jobless. He will just sit with the raw material, right? He cannot create the 14 lokas. He cannot create even a single physical body. Therefore, Jiva is responsible by giving the order. Ishvara is responsible by executing the order. Therefore, we say Bhagavan is the samanya karanam for Srishti and Jiva is the vishesha karanam for Srishti. So, samanya karanam and vishesha karanam joined together because the cause of this creation, right, is for this cause, the start, we need both the samanya karanam as well as vishesha karanam, right? So that's what we say in Avani Avatam Sankalpam, Anadi Avidya Vasanaya. Jiva is produced, Jiva keeps coming again and again because of the Anadi Avidya Vasanaya, the ignorance that is resulting in the Papa Punya Karma that has been acquired over multiple Janmas, which doesn't have a beginning or an end. Anadi Kala, right? Because Jiva is endowed with a Karana Shariram, right? During Pralayam and then Srishti, only Stula Shariram and Sukshma Shariram are created. Jiva in the Karana Shariram has been existing from Anadi, right? So the definition of Karana Shariram we saw when we studied Introduction to Vedanta, right? Which is the storehouse of the ignorance, the self-ignorance, right? So Jiva is Anadi, Ishvara is also Anadi. So Anadi Jiva gives contract to Anadi Ishvara, and Anadi Ishvara executes the contract, right? So the universe has been perpetuated by Samanya and Vishesha Karanam. Both of them are called Moolam. One is called Samanya Moolam in the first shloka. In the second shloka, the Vishesha Moolam is presented, right? Vishaya Pravalaha, Vishayaha means sense objects which have got the capacity to tempt us, attract us. Bhagavan's mall, shopping mall is the universe, right? The biggest mall ever created, right? And it tempts us. Each one purchases his own things based on raga and dvesha. Therefore, Vishaya, the sense objects are responsible. Sense objects outside and guna inside. The combination of sense objects and our own personality, when they come together, right? That is when the raga dvesha manifests, and then it causes us to do various karmas, right? So Krishna says every sense object is like a small growing branch. Pravalaha means a small branch, otherwise called a shoot, right? So it becomes a branch later. Therefore, Vishaya, the sense objects are like the shoots of a tree, and when the shoots appear between the trunk and the current branch, a small shoot also comes, and this shoot alone gradually grows, and when the current branch withers away, it replaces the old branch. So similarly, the current raga dvesha will produce punya papa, and it will replace the existing punya papa that is getting manifested, right? And the current body will generate punya papam that will result in the next body. Therefore, the sense objects are like the shoots of the universal tree, and once the guna and vishaya come together, the raga dvesha vasana will grow more and more, right? So adascha mulani, the secondary roots, right? These will grow. And Bhagavan is the primary root, and Jiva with the Raga Dvesha is the secondary root, Vishesha Karanam and Samanya Karanam, right? So adascha, further down, right? Mulani, the secondary roots in the form of Raga Dvesha Vasana are Anusantatani, right? So our desires keep increasing, right? Raga and Dvesha, we want to go to one place for vacation, then we want to go to another continent, then we want to go to the Arctic Sea, to Antarctic, all of them, right? So our mamakara and ahankara, both of these, right? It spreads all over. Basically, today our mamakara spreads all over the world in the form of places we would like to visit, or in the form of our own children being in different parts of the world. So the ahankara, mamakara, raga, dvesha, which is spreading all over, becomes responsible for the next janma individually and the next srishti collectively. So we keep Bhagavan busy all the time, right? Anusantatani. And what do these roots create? Karmanubandhini. Each raga dvesha produces punya karma and papa karma. And when the desires cannot be legitimately fulfilled, right? We want to enhance basically our income through other methods also, right? And we start justifying, saying this is Kali Yuga, a little bit of adharma is the practical way to live, etc. So we are producing papa side by side by indulging in these wrong methods, right? And we must remember that Bhagavan is watching us anyway, and he knows when to give us a punch as per our papa karma, which is fructifying, right? So karma anubandhini means the punya papa karmani, right? And manushya loke. Why manushya loke? In the world of human beings, right? Lord Krishna uses this word because only in manushya loka they can exhaust as well as they can accumulate fresh karma, because animals can only exhaust their karmas which they have earned in the past human janma. Animals cannot earn karma in the past animal janma. So you must remember that each of the animals has had a past human janma. They can exhaust those karmas in animal birth, but animals cannot earn fresh karmas in animal birth because they don't have a manifested or active free will, right? So only in a past human janma they have accumulated these karmas. From past karma account, again free will become active at some stage, right? And then they will get a fresh janma. So even devas, we must remember, cannot earn karma in devaloka. They can only exhaust their punyam. And if they want to add fresh punyam, they have to necessarily come down to manushya loka. So therefore Krishna uses the word manushya loke karma anubandhini. So thus the universe is sustained by a joint venture, if you may say so, between two partners, which is Bhagavan and Jiva. Both together perpetuate this world, right? Continuing. न रूपमस्येह ततोपलभ्यते न रूपमस्येह ततोपलभ्यते नान्तो न चादिर्न च सम्प्रतिष्ठा नान्तो न चादिर्न च सम्प्रतिष्ठा अश्वत्थमेनं सुविरूढमूलम् अश्वत्थमेनं सुविरूढमूलम् असङ्गशस्त्रेण दृढेन चित्वा असङ्गशस्त्रेण दृढेन चित्वा. So in the first shloka we saw by the tree example that even though an individual tree has a beginning and end, the tree as a species does not have a beginning or end, because the tree, when it dies, it produces sufficient seeds for the next tree, right? Thus the tree seed series is beginningless and endless, right? You can never speak of the first seed. Similarly, the universe is also like a current tree, and when the universe dissolves during pralayam, we have a fresh universe coming up, right, during Srishti. So in the form of Punya Papam, seed, all the punya papam of all the jivas are stored. So pralayam is not a vacuum, right? It only means end of current universe, right? During pralayam, Bhagavan is there and the next universe is there, but it is in the form of sanchita karmani, stored in the karana shariram, right? So therefore it is called the seed of the next Srishti, and all the karana sharirams put together is called Maya. Therefore Maya is equal to samashti karana shariram, which includes all the sanchita karmanis, accumulated karmanis of all the jivas, right? So we managed to accumulate, and when pralayam comes, we have created enough karmani, and these will remain in hibernation, exactly like a polar bear does during winter, right? So it remains inactive, and when the srishti comes, it will manifest, right? So in pralayam, it is in the form of a avyakta rupam. Sukshma Shariram, Sthula Shariram, 14 lokas, everything is in the form of Avyakta Rupam. And then during Srishti, right, then it starts coming up, right? So Lord Krishna is going to talk about it, which we will see in the next class. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Any questions? I don't see any questions typed here. One second. As I said, this is a very subtle teaching, and it's a very short chapter, but this also happens to be the last of the Jnana Yoga Pradhana chapters, mainly focusing on Jnana Yoga. Okay, so I don't think there are any questions. So we will meet in the next class next week, same time. Hari Om.